Okay, so we talked about angle, we talked about bevel and angle, their relationship. We talked about the consistency between angle, pressure, and all that stuff. Um, you said something in one of your videos, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said that when talking about pressure on the stone, you think about it sort of like, yeah, you can do the scale trick that's become very popular, or you can think of it like rubbing your electronic screens, sort of.
Yep.
Right? That's sort of another way to think about it. When you're cleaning a scuff on your laptop screen and it's a kind of a smudgy, greasy thing, you're trying to get rid of it, but you also want a little bit of finesse so you don't crack your laptop screen.
Exactly. Yeah, like that point when you see like the white form around your finger when you're pressing down on your screen, like that's a little bit too harsh and completely like really good analogy. The thing that I didn't add is as you're grabbing my prop again, as you're getting more of your bevel like finely tuned, especially on asymmetric knives, the common idea is that any of us who have cleaned our windows in our parents' house growing up, you want to kind of like with your Windex, you want to kind of like press down until you hear it squeaking. That's actually good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's the opposite when you're talking about knives as they get up into higher and higher grit stones, because if you think about it, when you start, it's this kind of like gnarly edge. There's a lot of burrs that need to get kicked up on either end, and I know we're going to talk about burrs, but it's like you want a little bit of like destruction kind of almost happening in the initial stages of sharpening a knife on a lower grit stone. And when I say lower grit, that's like coarser. So think like coarse sandpaper. And as you get up, it's like finer and finer grit sandpaper. Your edge is actually more developed now. And so as you get a finer and finer edge, if you're on a 6,000 grit stone, you have a really thin and freshly developed edge. If you press down on that too much, and again, talking about consistency, if you have a little curve in your stone and you're pressing down really hard and your fresh edge goes over that bump, it's going to cause some disruption. Like it's going to curl in one direction or another. It can cause damage. And it's not to make anybody scared that this is going to completely ruin your new $300 knife that you just bought. But keep in mind that as you're polishing, you don't have to push so hard as you're going up in grit. And that helps me a lot because it makes me acknowledge that on my 1,000 grit side, I'm going to spend maybe 60 to 70% of my sharpening time. And once all my knives, so I'll usually do like 8 or 10 knives at a time. When I do them all, once they're all done with the 1,000 grit side, I maybe have like 25 minutes left of sharpening. Like it's really quick, like it's like 10 passes on a 3,000 or 6,000 grit stone if I'm going progressively higher. And my pressure is really light. I'm just think of it like polishing, like scrubbing and polishing. Like that's how I kind of think about it. Like if anybody's worked in a kitchen where you have to scrub the countertops and then you have to use the stainless steel cleaner and wipe it with a towel. When you're using a scrubby, like stainless steel wool, you're going hard, like you're trying to get all the food off there. You're trying to like whatever. As you're going into polishing, like that's pretty light. Like you're kind of a fool if you're like, you have a towel and you're pressing into the countertop and you're kind of going crazy. It's polishing, like think of it like polishing versus, sharpening, developing an edge, bevel, all of those sorts of things. So it's almost like my mindset changes a little bit as I'm going higher in grit, if that's helpful with pressure. Because again, it's not the same for every knife, for every grit of stone. It changes. So absolutes are hard to talk about.
Yeah, they are. They really are. And that's kind of the theme of the video, honestly, is trying to talk in strategic absolutes, but also telling you that they're not absolutes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's the challenge with this video that I'm trying to do. So